So the story begins in 1990, where we are introduced to three young men, one of whom was a gangster named Terry, and the other his friend. The three were in a car, watching a house belonging to Dr. Huggins, who lived with his wife in a large house. Observing these two elderly men, they decided to rob the house, as it seemed easy to them. Carrie's mother worked there, so he was a frequent visitor. Carrie saw a large locker in the house, and his intentions were corrupted. Greed arose in his heart. He felt as if it contained a huge treasure. When he told his friend about the locker, they decided to rob the house. They included the gangster in their plan because the gangster was a master of robbery and theft, and the task seemed like child's play, having committed similar thefts many times before. It was well known that Huggins went out for dinner with his wife every Friday, so the three waited for them to leave, and in the meantime, they planned to rob the house. The car in which they were keeping watch over the house wasn't their own, but belonged to a female friend of Terry's friend Mary. She had to go to work, so she came and asked for her car back from them. As soon as Mary arrived, Huggins and his wife left. Mary, already aware of their intentions, tried to dissuade her friend from doing so, but her friend's greed was too great, so he ignored her and entered the house with his friends. His friend didn't give Mary the car keys, but took them inside with him. That's why Mary remained outside. She had kept the keys with her, so she could wait outside. As soon as they entered the house, the three of them began packing up the expensive items. While searching, they also found the room of a little girl, Huggins' daughter. She had died some time ago. Even today, her room was decorated the same way. Then, they head to the basement, where they find the locker, which they try to open. Despite many attempts, they are unable to open it because it is coded. Outside, Mary starts screaming because they were already late, and it's almost time for Huggins to arrive. So, they become increasingly nervous. They don't have time. So the thug suggests that they wait for them to arrive so they can ask them for the code and open the locker. Both of them are impressed by his plan, and they agree. Then, Mary's friend goes outside and persuades her to come inside the house to avoid any complications. While they were chatting, Huggins and his wife arrived. As soon as they entered the house, the three men attacked them. Mary was also inside, so Huggins and his wife assumed she was their accomplice. Huggins' wife was injured in the incident, but they paid no attention to her. Mary quickly bandaged her. Meanwhile, Huggins noticed the name written on Mary's hand. Huggins knew all the children in the town, as only a few people lived there. Therefore, Huggins immediately recognized Mary and her friend. Terry, also a friend of theirs, was also able to identify Terry. Although Terry tried to hide from Huggins, it was to no avail. Because the thug wasn't from the town, he escaped Huggins' notice and remained undetected. Together, the three men tied Huggins and his wife with ropes and began executing their plan. When they were taking Huggins' credit card, Terry inadvertently blurted out the thug's name, which Huggins also heard. This meant that they had gradually come to know him. After stealing the goods, the three men came to Huggins to ask for the locker code. Huggins said, "There's no locker in our house." To expose Huggins' lie, they made him sit in front of the locker in the basement and asked God again. Instead of telling God, Huggins advised them to go home. But Mary's friend didn't listen, as everything was going according to his plan. He assaulted Huggins, but he refused to speak. Seeing this, the thug demanded more stern action. However, Mary was deeply hurt by this, and she began to leave. Seeing this, the thug goes after her, as Mary's exit could be dangerous for them all. When the thug approaches Mary, he discovers that Mary was actually going out to call the police. This enrages the thug. He grabs Mary but doesn't kill her. He simply warns her and lets her go. Mary's screams can be heard all the way to the basement. That's why Huggins tells Mary's friend that the man, the thug, is a bad person. When Huggins calls Mary's friend by name, he's also shocked. Huggins says, "Terry, you weren't like this before. You've become like this because of this thug's company." Mary's friend and Terry now understand that they've come under his radar, and he knows their families well. Therefore, he gives them another chance and asks them to leave. However, Mary's friend, lured by the money, refuses to back down. Terry, however, decides to stay away from everyone. Meanwhile, the thug ties Mary up and brings her to the basement. They again ask Huggins for the code, but when Huggins refuses, the thug instructs Mary's friend to cut off one of his wife's fingers. Mary's friend does the same. Although Mary tries to stop him, out of fear of the thug, he cuts off Huggins' wife's finger and quietly asks Huggins for the code. Huggins remains adamant, even though his wife's life is in danger. Despite knowing this, Huggins flatly refuses to share the code. They are at a loss to understand why Huggins, if he willingly gave up the money, isn't revealing the locker's code. What kind of treasure is hidden inside? Mary's friend also wanted to know the same secret. So, this time, he ignores the thug's advice and attacks him. A fierce fight ensues, but Terry doesn't support either of them. In the ensuing scuffle, the thug stabs Mary's friend, leaving him wounded and falling to the ground. The thug himself handles the situation. Agnes had already realized the thug was a dangerous man. To save his own life, he immediately tells him the code. However, the code was wrong. This enrages the thug, and he moves forward to kill his wife. Seeing this, Mary hits the thug on the head with a hammer, severely injuring him. He dies from the bleeding on the spot. Mary's friend is still breathing, so she asks Huggins to treat him. They then take him to the operating theater. Mary's friend is in terrible pain, but Huggins, preoccupied with his wife, ignores this. He seems unconcerned. Seeing this, Mary begs Huggins to treat her friend, and Huggins agrees. Huggins removes the blade from her body and tells everyone to leave, asking them to take care of her until an ambulance arrives. Outside, Terry tries to comfort Mary, who resembles her sister and was once a friend of hers. However, she has disappeared some time ago, and Mary blames her for this. Terry wanted Mary to take her sister's place and live with her, but she opposes this, as they were trapped here because of the locker Terry had mentioned. When Mary goes to check on her friend, Huggins refuses to let her in. But when Mary forces herself inside, she finds her friend unconscious. Huggins claims she's under the influence of medication, which is why it looks that way, but Mary doesn't feel right. Mary calls for an ambulance. When Huggins goes to call for an ambulance, Mary checks on her friend and discovers that she's dead. Her pulse has stopped. Mary believes Huggins is the one who killed her. Huggins calls, but we then see that the phone wires are cut. It means Huggins was staging it all. When Mary comes out, she sees Huggins' wife giving Terry an injection to heal his leg injury. Mary now understands that she is completely trapped in this house, and when she tries to get out, all the doors are locked. Then his wife comes to Mary and abuses her, slaps her, and calls her daughter's name. But Huggins comes and consoles his wife, telling her that she has amnesia, and takes her away. Mary comes and asks for Terry's phone, but she says that Huggins has her phone. They then have tea together, and Terry feels much better with her, but Mary has no interest in him. She refuses to take anything. Huggins shows her a notebook containing photographs of many missing girls, all done to keep the memory of Huggins' wife alive. It also included a photograph of Mary's sister, leading her to believe that Mary was behind her disappearance. When Mary insists on opening the door, Huggins locks Mary in the cupboard and goes upstairs to put his wife to sleep. However, his wife decides to punish Mary, to which Huggins agrees. Meanwhile, Terry's legs become numb due to the injection Huggins' wife gave him, but he still remains confused. However, she manages to lure him out of the cupboard and plans an escape, promising to get Terry out as well. After locking the doors, Huggins and his wife release a gas to punish Mary. Mary begins to feel sick. Mary manages to snatch Huggins' wife's mask and puts it on herself. Meanwhile, Huggins' wife injects her. Meanwhile, Huggins takes Terry away. Mary locks Huggins' wife in a room with her. However, Huggins cuts a finger while trying to save his wife. Huggins still manages to remove Mary's mask. Mary demands Terry and the house keys in exchange for Huggins' wife, and Huggins agrees. She reaches the garage with Terry, but as they leave, Huggins and his wife are standing in front of them. Terry shoots and kills Mary because they had promised Terry that they would introduce him to his friend, Mary's sister. So it's revealed that after his daughter's death, Huggins kidnapped several girls, but they didn't resemble his son, so they all died. However, he had taken a liking to Mary's sister, so he offered to introduce Terry to her, and Terry agreed to stay. A week later, Terry's mother comes to their house asking about Terry, and they both refuse. But then we see them burying a corpse that belonged to none other than Terry, as she was the mastermind behind the burglary. After all this, they took revenge by killing Terry, who had lied to them. The truth was that they killed Mary's sister after the other girls because they were mentally unstable and had become addicted to killing so many people. With this sad ending, the film concludes.